had a kid the other day who he was doing a birthday party there, and I'm like, all right, what's everyone's favorite dinosaurs? And I kid you not, the birthday kid goes, I hate dinosaurs. I just go, okay.
What? Why did his parents pick that?
You know, I wish I could tell you.
Let's talk tails. Were you a kid who loved dinosaurs? I mean, like, for real, who didn't? And my guest today gets the opportunity to play with and educate others about these mighty beasts who used to walk this earth. It's CEO, writer, actor, and director of Jurassic Fight Night, a production put on by Pangaea, Land of the Dinosaurs. It's Chase Homyak. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well, thank you. So tell me the tale of like your passion with dinosaurs. You know, not many people get to grow up as an adult and still be around dinosaurs all day.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's funny you say that because I feel like every kid has a phase, if you will, where they're really into dinosaurs, and I guess I never grew out of that phase. However, you know, you get to a point in your life where life kind of takes over, and it's like, well, you know, I'm never going to be able to actually do anything with dinosaurs. And then lo and behold, here comes around this place, and they're like, yeah, you get paid to talk about dinosaurs. And I'm like, sweet gig. So I took on that, and they were doing this program, and, you know, also growing up as a big wrestling fan, wrestling and dinosaurs. It was a pretty seamless transition.
Right, goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
I typically will ask people, you know, what's their favorite animal with a tail? I guess one could assume maybe it's a dinosaur. So now, more specifically, what's your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur would be an Allosaurus.
Okay.
Not a dinosaur, I'm sure most people know. It's not like your famous Jurassic Park version or whatever have you. Reason being is growing up as a kid, they had these documentaries and all these things on dinosaurs, and Allosaurus was a prominent feature in it, and just as a kid, that's kind of the dinosaur I just latched to. Nowadays, I like to say he's like T-Rex, but he's not as, you know, mainstream, so I gotta be different.
There you go. That's cool. That's cool. And so tell me a little bit about Pangaea, Land of the Dinosaurs, for those who are unaware of it.
Yeah, well, we're a dinosaur animatronic exhibit. So all of the dinosaurs that are inside, they'll move, make noise, their eyes light up. But
they're not real. Don't worry.
Yeah.
They will not eat your kids.
Yeah, we've gotten some close calls, but, you know, nothing definitive just yet. First and foremost, it is an educational facility. You know, the dinosaurs can't talk for themselves. So we try to showcase lots of different avenues and ways of how to learn about these animals, whether that be through self-engagement or guided experiences, that being through fossils, interaction with technology, and you know, all that kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, that's very cool. And so then from this, you then wrote Jurassic Fight Night. And so you said it's a blend of dinosaurs meet wrestling. So tell us a little bit more about the tale that, you know, motivated you to say, I'm going to write this thing and then produce it.
Well, truthfully, it was a program, if you will, before I had started. And it was already kind of established as it had a few shows prior to that. What I had noticed in the shows, because I had attended most of them just as kind of like the side stage or backhand, whatever have you, was that it was, hey, here's dinosaurs. Here's dinosaurs fight. Okay, it's over. And it was just very cut and dry. And again, growing up as a big wrestling fan, there was stories and there was characters and they had these different, you know, conflicts and things like that. And you know, not to pull the curtain back too much, but with these dinosaurs, their moveset is extremely limited, you know, because they're people in suits and they can't really do a whole lot. So they can't do like the high flying moves and stuff. Right. Or like, you know, it was always classified as like UFC, but with dinosaurs. It's like, well, in UFC, they're like really hitting each other and it's this really violent stuff. And it's like, we're trying to, like, you can't do that with these. So really what's going to make this show more successful is kind of having a storyline and why are these different dinosaurs fighting each other and things like that. And, you know, the great thing about it is, you know, you could say, oh, well, that's crazy that this dinosaur's a king or this dinosaur is, you know, got this guy who's dressed up as a ghoul, but they're dinosaurs fighting. We're already throwing reality out of the window, so you can kind of go as crazy with it as you like.
Yeah, so tell me some of the challenges, if any, of being a writer-director, but then also having to act. Because then you have to really, you know, it's almost like two different mindsets. You know, how were you able to navigate through that and still have a successful show?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that, creating this and storyboarding it and scripting it and everything like that, you have this vision in your head of how this show is exactly going to go. And the reality of it is it's just not going to go that way because things are going to happen. And, you're not going to know how, especially doing a live production in front of people who, again, there have been shows in the past. I like to consider this a little bit of a rebranding, a little bit of a revival of it because we're doing this new story with it and trying to actually keep a contingent, group going, if you will, of these characters. So, not all the times are you going to get the reaction that you were expecting. And, especially with, like you said, being the actor of it, is especially day of, you're dealing with so many different things and so many different other actors and, all the people that are behind the scenes and things like that. I didn't even get to really see the show too much. So I don't know when I'm coming out, I don't know how is everybody going to react. How am I going to play off that? Especially with, my character who, spoiler alert, isn't the nicest of people. He's kind of a bad guy, if you will. So, with that, you really want the reaction of negative. Again, a boo, a hey, you stink kind of stuff like that. And thankfully, I believe we got that reaction out of my character, which is exactly what I was looking for. Because you're dealing with so many different things, it's because you can't really prepare for, okay, are they going to be silent? Are they going to cheer us? Are they going to boo us? What do I do with that? So that was, I think, definitely a little bit of a challenge within the production, especially the day of the show, was just kind of working with everything as it happens because it doesn't go as the script potentially goes for it.
Right, and you wrote the script, so you had the option of, you being a hero or a villain or however, so what makes it more fun, or what made you choose to want to choose one or the other? We're not going to put away too many spoilers. You could definitely find the whole show one day, and we'll make sure we'll have links back in here for being able to stay up to date on everything Jurassic Fight Night. But why would you choose to put yourself as a villain than a hero?
Yeah, right. I mean, everybody kind of wants to be the hero, but honestly, just being the villains are more fun.
I'm going to tell you, I always rooted for the villains when I was a little kid. I liked Scar. I liked,
I was going to say, I mean, growing up a superhero fan, my favorite superhero was like Ghost Rider, who's kind of like anti-hero. And it is like the villains are the ones that I kind of gravitated more to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, again, growing up as wrestling, it was also very much being the good guy to me is easy to portray because it's easy. I think with human nature, it's easier to make people like you than it is to make people not like you. Especially with the fact that we are dealing with dinosaurs. And regardless of what the dinosaur is, kids love dinosaurs. And being that this is a predominant, that was I would say 80% of our audience were kids.
Which was adorable.
Yes, and they were great. They did exactly what we wanted. But again, being that we have a dinosaur coming out, the kids are just going to have that innate reaction to cheer. Because it's a dinosaur, that's super cool. So it's like, how can we make this dinosaur, the dinosaur can't talk, the dinosaur can't really have these, and I'll go back to the wrestling, the characters in those, if they wanted to get what we call heat, which is, get that build of, hey, you don't like me, they'd insult the fans or insult, this town that they were in or whatever. Dinosaur can't do that. That gets them put on the handler. And to be honest with you, I really thought it was very important for that character to get the reaction that we got. And out of all the people that we had, being that I was the one who was writing the script and knew how it was going in my head and knew the vision that I wanted, I trusted myself to be that person.
And take the hate. Be okay with the hate and say, I wanted the hate.
We've gotten some people who, you'll go up and ask them because they said that they attended the show and we were like, how did you enjoy it and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, it was great. We loved it. They're like, my kid booed you. And I'm like, great. Yes. I'm so happy they did.
Right. That can be hard for, just self-esteem. I think that is almost a nice thing that you did in writing yourself being that character. Versus having to put it on someone else whom, at the end of the day, it's acting, it's your character, but sometimes, you can only get booed so many times, unless it's something that you were like, I wanted this, thank you, that you could start being like, wait, are they really booing me?
Well, and I mean, again, that's the thing is, it's with probably, I'm sure, a lot of the kids who attended and a lot of the kids who were watching, it's not going to be a show to them where, hey, these guys are characters
Yeah.
and things like
It's
to be
gonna feel real. Yeah.
right. And again, again, when we're at Pangaea and we bring the dinosaurs out, the kids always ask, "Is that a real dinosaur?" Like, you can suspend your belief, if you will. And we had a dinosaur who we wanted to be the bad guy, and we had then people cheering him, and it didn't work out. So we had a kid who cried the entire rest of the show because that specific dinosaur did not win.
Oh.
So I'm really sad for that kid.
Yeah.
If they're watching, I'm sorry. But, it's one of those things where, again, they're that emotionally invested into that dinosaur. And, not only is it, hey, I want to create that, negative response for me and the dinosaur that I am representing, but that gives the other dinosaur who is supposed to be the good guy, and he's kind of our ultimate underdog because he's the one plant eater in Jurassic Fight Night, it gives him that contrast to work off of.
Yeah.
If all the dinosaurs are coming out and they're just these happy good guys and saying hi to all, then it's like, well, you can't separate one dinosaur from the other.
Yeah.
Who do we want to win? Who do we want to root for?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know who we want to boo because we know that this is clearly the bad guy, so that gives the other dinosaur that the bad guy is combating to be the good guy, and okay, that's the one that we want to root for.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it really, establishing this specific character that I am representing, but it's establishing the other characters that he's always interacting with.
And, as a vegetarian, I do appreciate you having some of those herbivores there on the show as well. Because, sometimes you think it's just a carnivore kind of world, but it doesn't always have to be.
And that's kind of the great idea of that dinosaur. It was kind of a no-brainer to make him the good guy. Mm-hmm. And it's just because all of our other dinosaurs are meat eaters, and it was very hard when we were kind of creating the roster, if you will, of, okay, hey, we got all these guys. Well, these are all meat eaters. It's like, well, let's do this dinosaur that's a plant eater. Oh, well, he doesn't work because he's a four-legged dinosaur. You can't fight very well. Or let's do this guy. Oh, he's a dinosaur that has no defenses and gets eaten all the time, so he wouldn't be a good fighter.
So they're all based on real dinosaurs, and so you use the knowledge from those dinosaurs to say, would they actually withstand a fight? Like, did you put yourself back into that prehistoric mind of, like, if we took an Allosaurus and, I'm so sorry, I do not know dinosaurs that well, but T-Rex, I'll say, and we put them in a fight, maybe this would happen. Is that kind of some of your mindset when you went into the storytelling?
Most of the dinosaurs that we did have were based off of real dinosaurs, except for one who was kind of our unknown species made in a lab, things like that.
And you never know. We'll probably
I was going to say, we're just predicting the future a little bit. But yeah, with all those dinosaurs, we announce like, hey, here's their heights, here's where they're from, all these things. And all of those things are accurate to what the animal was in real life. So, when you look at the suits, it's kind of like, oh, hey, they kind of look the same because the suits are obviously constructed similar size. But we did kind of go a little bit of dream matchups. So a big one was T-Rex versus Spinosaurus, which is one of the fights in Jurassic Fight Night. And that's one of those things where that would have never happened in real life. They never would have actually met. But that's always brought up, particularly because the movies kind of always depict the two as fighting each other and stuff like that. So when making the show, and it was, well, hey, who do we want to go up against who? We didn't have all of the dinosaurs picked out. We only had like 11 different dinosaurs present on the show, and only 5 were definitively like, these are the ones we are going to use. And we needed a matchup for the Spinosaurus, and I was very adamant that we wanted the T-Rex. And that's just because, again, that's kind of that dream matchup that, again, whenever we get kids come to the dinosaur exhibit and they see either T-Rex or Spinosaurus, one of our most popular questions is, who would win in a fight? And so we wanted to kind of give that off. Yeah, give that.
Is it because they were during different times? Or
correct.
Okay.
So, not only, T-Rex lived in North America and Spinosaurus lived in Africa, but about 20-something million years of difference between the two.
That's a pretty decent age gap.
Yes, exactly. And so there really just was never any opportunity for us to have seen that happen in the fossil records.
Right.
So, again, for the kid who, was cheering for the Spinosaurus to think, oh man, that's real. Who knows? Spinosaurus might have actually been able to do more against T-Rex than we thought. And again, that didn't necessarily go into all of the fight process. It's like there were definitely some dinosaurs that most likely would have lost in real life, but we wanted to win in real, or in the show, and obviously having some different outliering factors like the knights from medieval times, And again, that kind of just goes back to, man, knights and dinosaurs. That's something that it seems really far-fetched to happen, but, we're kind of already breaking the rules of reality. So
and what's a dragon?
It's cool. Yeah,
and what's really a dragon? It's just a flying dinosaur. It's just a pterodactyl that's a little more beefed up, So that's excellent. You mentioned a few times how you are, you're a wrestling fan. You're a wrestling fan. So who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
I had two. And it's kind of funny because, again, this is where it kind of goes in with the kid brain, if you will. Growing up, my favorite dinosaur's name was Triple H.
Isn't that a wrestler, Triple H?
Yeah. I don't even remember what made me like him so much, but yeah, one of my favorite wrestlers. And then there was one episode of wrestling that I was watching that he came down and he was fighting another wrestler that I liked. His name was the Hurricane. Hurricane was a superhero. And he'd come down, he'd pull off his like a fake mask, basically give it to a little kid, and the kid get the mask and he'd be so excited. Well, so Triple H comes down and rips the mask off of the kid's face. Kid starts bawling his eyes out and stuff like that. And again, in my head, I'm thinking this is real because I'm a kid.
Yeah.
That is kind of when I first started figuring out, oh, they're not just fighting each other. There's bad guys in this, and he is a bad guy. So that actually ended up making me not like Triple H anymore because he was the bad guy, and I thought he was mean. So then I ended up liking, he was called The Undertaker.
I was going to say, The Undertaker. That was a popular one. I watched it a little with my brother.
Yeah. So a little bit of an influence on my character.
Yeah, I can see that just a little, yeah.
So that was definitely, the inspiration for that kind of design and the costume and stuff like that. Dude Love was great. Dude Love.
Right, just the tie-dye.
We'll have to get a new dinosaur component and make him like Dude Love.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
Oh man, what would be the dinosaur that would best match the Dude Love vibe?
That's a good one. It would probably definitely be a plant eater.
Right, I think so too.
Our peace-loving dinosaur. We really wanted to put a dinosaur called a Therizinosaurus in there, who is a plant eater, but he's got 2-foot-long claws.
Oh.
And so we thought, okay, he's a plant eater, but that'd be great because the claws would be really great as a fighting tool. Unfortunately, like we were kind of talking about, you're very limited with the suits that you have. So we couldn't figure out a way to make the arms the main component to fight with. It always has to be either the tail or the mouth. Well, Therizinosaurus doesn't have sharp teeth. He doesn't have a big tail or things like that. But, I mean, again, that's the kind of thing is, you see when you watch the fighting is the dinosaurs typically have 3 basic moves, and it's tail whip, bite, and kick. And, some of our more athletically inclined dinosaurs could maybe throw in like a bicycle kick or some kind of cool special moves. And I do still think that you could, there were some pops that you could hear it, and there was some big, you could hear the ooh from the crowd.
Yeah.
And so, the fighting's cool, but again, it really was the characters that I think drive the story.
Definitely, I would agree with that. So, yes, I think we should introduce a Dude Love character. That'd be a really fun, just, some peace-loving, dinosaur in there. Maybe the one from Jurassic Park that spits, right? Is that a
Well, so we did have a dinosaur that did represent that, that animal. Now, is Dilophosaurus, so it's Dexter.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and Dexter was our Arizona native, and that is realistic. Dilophosaurus was found in Arizona. Unfortunately, they do not accurately exhibit any frill or spitting anything out of his mouth.
What? That was such an iconic scene in Jurassic Park.
And quite frankly, that's why they did it. It was because they knew it was going to be so iconic. Yeah. But unfortunately, no scientific evidence to support either of those features on any dinosaur for that matter.
Oh, wow.
So we wanted to, even though that probably would make him a much more formidable fighter, we wanted to try and keep some semblance of accuracy with some of the dinosaurs, especially the real ones that we had.
I can definitely appreciate and respect that. Man, I totally thought that dinosaur was real, and it's like, man, that would have been
would have probably been way better for the screen and stuff. And that's why they we keep it to the movies.
Right. And can you watch things like Jurassic Park, or does it annoy you when you see those discrepancies of just total inaccuracy?
Yeah, and it's a great question because, quite frankly, I get it all the time. And I'll do, fossil presentations or tours and talk about dinosaurs all the time. And I always state, Jurassic Park is an awful movie for teaching you about dinosaurs. I also always state it is fantastic for entertainment.
Yes.
And realistically, they never said they were being accurate with dinosaurs. Actually, a scene in the movie where they say, hey, Velociraptor is completely covered in feathers. And, there's a scene where the kid's like, oh, so it's like a big turkey. And they talk about how it was still a dangerous predator. But again, if it wasn't for making the Velociraptors these scary looking animals and making all these dinosaurs having these shock factors, no one would be into dinosaurs, probably myself included, because Jurassic Park was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. Kind of what led or at least helped me get that passion for dinosaurs. So the reality of it is Jurassic Park does its job, which is to entertain people and get people interested in the dinosaurs. It's just my job to tell them that Jurassic Park is also wrong.
Yes. And so with like the raptors, you mentioned like covered in feathers. I feel like, throughout the last couple of decades, there's definitely even more science behind that. So would you agree that birds are our modern day little dinosaurs?
Absolutely. So realistically, the biggest tell, if you will, are going to be the skeletons. And keep in mind, because that's what we have predominantly the record of, are fossils, which are skeletons, where you can find feathers and different things like that wouldn't normally fossilize. Right. If you looked at a dinosaur skeleton and then looked at the skeleton of a bird, you were going to see a lot of very similar features in the two that you wouldn't see on other animals, including, crocodiles, alligators, and other reptiles, which are commonly, misrepresented as them being dinosaurs. Close cousins, but they are not dinosaurs actually themselves.
It's so interesting because I feel like when I look at a Gila monster, let's say, for an example, you see the scales, you see just like the claws, and you almost feel like, oh, that's a miniature dinosaur. But then you're right, when you look at the skeletal structure, and then you compare, a bird, you're like, oh, wait, those arms, those shoulders look almost the same. And so why do you think there is, how is that? How do these lizards look so similar but not?
So they were around a very similar time frame. And quite frankly, reptiles, crocodiles, and alligators are actually older than dinosaurs. They do share common ancestors, though. So again, they are distant cousins to one another. They are related. And realistically, it was just kind of, we think that time frame that all those animals did kind of live in and start, developing and things like that, just was much more suitable for that kind of environment. So for instance, very hot, humid climate for the most part during that time. So scales are very good for water retention. You don't lose water as quickly, so a lot of the reptiles were doing really well with the scales. And that's when we do start seeing it, because there were scaled dinosaurs and a lot of the scaled dinosaurs. And there was no cold weather. So there really isn't any need for any kind of insulating features or anything like that, like hair or fur or things like this. Well, then cold weather kind of comes around. So then because of that, hey, it's either we're going to freeze or we need to do something. And the dinosaurs basically said, well, let's just start developing this feather-like coating. And, that keeps us warm. And then it kind of became well, hang on, these things are really good for allowing us to be able to fly because it makes us more aerodynamic. So then it kind of transitions to that, well, let's just start flying. And then from that point on, because you can fly, well, you don't need to be these big, scary T-Rexes or anything because you don't need to fight. You can just fly away. You can't fly if you're, a 3-ton T-Rex. So becoming more lightweight, becoming smaller, and then really becoming birds was kind of the next step.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess they're already laying eggs. Yeah. And a lot of the anatomy the same. So that's so fascinating. And that's, I think I still feel validated why I'm kind of borderline terrified of birds. Because they're just little dinosaurs.
Yeah. People always, will ask me, well, hey, are there any modern day, what's the closest modern day dinosaurs? And my example is always, it's called a cassowary. They live in Australia and New Zealand. And they have a beautiful bird. Blue face, crest on their head, big black bodies. They're considered a rat type, so a relative of ostriches and emus.
Okay.
But they have a 6-inch talon on their middle toe and have been known to kill people.
Wow.
Very, very.
Kind of like a little velociraptor.
Yes, exactly.
Thing.
It's got exact. I was gonna say, any people look at it and they go, "That looks like a velociraptor claw from the movies." So,
yes.
beautiful bird. Admire it from a distance if you can.
Well, yeah, Australia and New Zealand, like pretty much admire all of the animals from a distance because one of them's bound to kill you.
Yeah.
In the water, on the land, whatever.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter where you are. If you're in that area, it's probably not a great place to be.
Yeah. Just
no offense to anybody living in Australia.
I have some friends there right now, so stay safe.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
I'm sure you guys are used to it by now.
Yes. And so, what are some of your goals with Jurassic Fight Night?
It's really to again create this story because again, I want to say there were 3 shows done before that. It was kind of to a point though where you could watch one show and then watch another show and it didn't matter. If you didn't watch the other ones, I should say.
That doesn't get fandom. That
well,
doesn't
right, and
you know,
realistically, the last show before this most recent one was a long time ago when it kind of lost its interest and everybody kind of forgot about it. And so we want to keep that, and you know, it's not going to end up I guess, you know, who knows what the future would hold, but it's not going to be like wrestling where it's a weekly thing and it's every week we're traveling to different locations because just realistically the suits aren't actually really designed for that kind of stuff. But if we can make it to where there's a continued interest with it to where, you know, if we did another one and, you know, basically said, hey, we're continuing right where we left off of the last Jurassic Fight Night, people can be like, oh, hey, I remember that, you know, or hey, I know what the congruent story is. So when these 2 dinosaurs are fighting each other, we know why.
Yeah.
That is kind of the main goal for this.
Start placing bets.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, betting's legal in Arizona, so you know.
Not for the kids yet, though. This is more for kids, but you know, the parents. Let them have a little extra
hey, we gotta
side,
give them something
right?
too.
Gotta give them a little extra something, right? I think it's just such a fun and creative thing, and you know, I know there's a book by Stephen King on writing, and in it talks about like you should only write what you know. So, were you a past wrestler at one point? How do you?
So, you know, like I said, growing up was a big avid fan, and to be honest with you, I give a lot of credit to my brother who did a little bit of amateur wrestling.
Oh.
And so I would go to the shows and watch him and stuff like that. But, you know, it's one thing to sit in the crowd and just watch it. And again, you only see what they want you to see because that's out on the scene. But then getting to hear a lot of what's happening back, because I'm going to tell you right now, I was 15 in like freshman year of high school. I still believed wrestling was real at that point. And let me preface this by saying it is. It's choreographed, but all of the moves and the hits and stuff like that.
They're still athletic specimens.
Yes, exactly. It is still, you know, people, it's same thing with like a movie. You're still doing those stunts and still taking the hits and taking the bumps and stuff like that. But getting to hear again, hey, you know, this is how the choreography works and this is how the story. And, you know, my brother, he was basically, his wrestler name was Super Rich. His name's Richie, and he likes Superman, so he'd wear a cape and he'd be a superhero.
Oh, I totally just, sorry to interrupt, pictured like, remember Richie Rich back in the day? Macaulay Culkin? Like, I just pictured him with like a slick back hair and like coming in. I'm Super Rich.
Red hair, but it is slick back.
Oh, there you go. It's a little bit there.
And again, kind of very somewhat similar storyline to what we used with Jurassic Fight Night, which was he was the good guy and he's a superhero, and the guy he was going against was like, I'm out to prove that, you know, superheroes aren't real and there's no good, and you know, so it was kind of my character saying, hey, I'm out to prove that the plant eater can't do it and stuff like that. And you know, there was like one point where there was a kid in the audience and the guy grabbed the kid, had to throw the kid, and my brother had to catch him and stuff like that. And the kid was my cousin. He was a plant.
Okay, so, good. I was just like, oh my gosh, I would kill someone if they just grew each other.
Yeah, right. But so again, it's one of those things where when you're watching it, you're just like, oh man, he just grabbed this random kid like this. What a
You're explaining it to me, and I thought it was real for a second. I'm like, what are you doing?
But yeah, the kid knew exactly what was happening. And I think he was like, what do you want me to do after he grabs me? And he's like, do the pose. And so they both like sit there with their hands on, and I was there in the crowd, and so again, but that got a huge pop, and everybody is so like, oh, he's a superhero, he saved a kid. So it really kind of showcases like, oh hey, that's how that works, and that's how you get these people to invest. Because again, kind of like I was saying, the biggest thing we wanted was reactions.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that could have happened was we walk out there with a dinosaur and crickets.
Silence. Yeah.
Right. And I think regardless of if you booed them, if you hated them, if you were supposed to boo them, you cheered them, or whatever have you, we got a reaction for every dinosaur that came out. We had investment into the characters.
Most definitely. People were holding up signs.
Yeah.
People were getting intense about it. Yeah, just getting upset when their dinosaur didn't win. And yeah, so I'd love to know. Another thing I always like to ask is like, what's your favorite tale that you've ever read or watched or heard? Is there a favorite book that either just inspired you to have a career with dinosaurs, which is really fun. Like you said, like you were able to be a kid that doesn't ever grow up. You still can play with dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the thing, is to be completely frank with you, I didn't really read much in the way of like novels or anything like that growing up. I read dinosaur books and animal books and things like that, and I was really into that kind of stuff growing up as a kid. As I got older, and again, like you're in school and they're like, hey, you got to read this book and you got to read this book. I did actually, like, one of my favorite books of all time is called Tuesdays with Morrie.
Okay.
And I had to read that in high school. It's about a professor for a college it's a student was writing this book. In the book, it chronicles, how this guy interacts with this professor and things like that. And, spoiler alert, end of the book, the professor passes due to the disease. And it really hit me emotionally, as a high schooler. And it's kind of funny because it's like, this is a book. I can't say for certain, but I would assume, it might be based off some loosely real things, but a fictional story, but yet it can still make you feel something. So I've always felt like I've been very performative. Mm-hmm. Never been shy in front of a camera or in front of anything from, 5 to 500 people, or whatever, we had 800 I think for the show. So in front of all those people, I found that everybody's like, oh yeah, you love dinosaurs, and you that must be why you want to work at Pangaea so bad, or why you must love working at a dinosaur exhibit, because you do love dinosaurs. And it's like, yes, that's true. I do love dinosaurs. I love learning, and I love just being. But I like educating people on them more, and
and it gets to scratch that itch that you can perform too.
Right, and I'll have my dumb dad jokes and things like that in the presentation, and it's good when I get a laugh out of those. Sometimes I do get silence on those, and I just say, okay, guess you don't want to laugh at my dumb dad jokes, but
you just have to change the language and things, all these new lingos.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is, working again with predominantly kids, everything is always changing because the trends and things like that are. I can't tell you how many times now, like if I end up saying either the number 6 or 7, and that's just because that's the new thing with kids now, and in a year it's going to be something completely totally different. Yeah, but I'm going to have to completely change my spiel to reflect that. Because that's kind of the thing is, whereas our clientele changes, but it doesn't change, in the sense of we're always dealing with 6 or 7 year olds, or 8, anywhere from. I kind of led you into that one, but again, we do deal with anywhere from ages 2 to 99, and the older audience, you got to change your spiel and how you talk with. A 2-year-old, because believe me, we get 2-year-olds who are like, hey, we want to do the tour with them, and so it's like, okay, how can I convey all this information to a 2-year-old? You just can't. It's just, hey, look at this dinosaur. What do you think he eats? And it's really simplistic. Whereas, if I'm dealing with, a elderly couple who wants to come in and learn about dinosaurs.
Detail, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna just be like, oh, hey, look at his toe. And it's gonna be like, why is this guy kneeling down and talking to us like we're 4, So, having to have different ways to interact with all different types of people. I mean, again, there are people who are also, they come in really interested in dinosaurs. I had a kid the other day who he was doing a birthday party there, and I'm like, all right, what's everyone's favorite dinosaurs? And I kid you not, the birthday kid goes, I hate dinosaurs. I just go, okay.
What? Why did his parents pick that?
You know, I wish I could tell you, but yeah,
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness. Well, you know, kids, they change their desires and passions every week, it feels like. I know with my son, he was, you know, super into like Ninja Kids and wanted to do a Ninja Kid party. I made Ninja Kid invitations. He saw the invitation. He's like, no, I just want a baseball party, a basketball party. Like, wait, what? What happened? So they change it all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is kids, they don't got filters. They will tell you what they think, but that's honestly what makes them the best critics.
That's true.
The best audience is because they will tell you how it is, and they'll tell you what they find. If you can get them to enjoy it and have a good time, then you can probably get pretty much anybody to.
Oh yeah, no, they are definitely, you know, just clear, and they are not going to sugarcoat anything because they don't care about other people's feelings. You know, it's just not in their mindset. And not, you know, the number of times that, you know, we've sent a video and oh, my 8-year-old watched it and liked it, so we're like, great, we got an 8-year-old like it, so we're good. But there's been times too if we're not sure, you know, we'll even ask our 7-year-old, like, hey, is this cool? Would you watch this?
You're our guinea pig. Yeah.
Okay, well, it got passed by, it held the 7-year-old attention, so there we go. Like, you know, joke, we're gonna, you know, show an intro. Like, would you watch this little intro teaser? Would that interest you to want to watch more?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So sometimes kids are, you know, very good, and they're very affordable. You just gotta give them like a scoop of ice cream.
Right, and they're happy. Yeah. No, we had a lot of food at the event, so I definitely needed to just feed them and they were happy.
That's really typically what you have to do with children is feed them and keep them at a decent temperature, not too hot, not too cold. You know, so that's why it's a good thing. You know, I know the last one was, you know, that we did together was January of 2026. It was still a little chillier than we thought, but thank goodness there were blankets and sweatshirts. And
we kind of knew that it was going to be a little bit on the colder side.
It was a lot on the colder side.
Yeah, it ended up being a little bit colder than we thought, and you know, we were hoping, hey, we had blankets, we'd have sweatshirts, stuff like that. People would realize it was cold, they'd bring. And I mean, the kind of unfortunate reality of it is again, not trying to pull the curtain back too much, but there are living people inside these giant suits that are completely insulated. This, especially with it being an outdoor event.
They were probably grateful.
Yes, they loved it. It was great for them, and unfortunately, it's not an event that you can do outdoors in summer when you're in Arizona.
Oh gosh, no.
So it really did limit our.
I think it worked out perfectly because for those who were cold, they bought a blanket, they bought a sweatshirt, and now it's a double benefit because not only were they warm and comfy, they had something to bring home and go like, wow, this was such a fun event.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was a win-win, I feel like, across the board for both the attendees and for yourselves, just for your bottom line, because at the end of the day, we got to remember this is a business.
And, you know, I mean, realistically, and I stated at the show, we were extremely grateful for everybody who bought a ticket or bought merchandise or whatever that, you know, they did to help support it, because even though there were quite a few of these beforehand, I really did feel like this was a revival and we were starting completely from scratch, especially because that had been such a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, especially with kids, you got kids who may have even been at the last one. They're like, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
So realistically, it felt like we were starting a brand new business and just launching it from the ground. And so that was a really, honestly, kind of scary thing because we were investing a lot of time and resources and money and stress into this. And
you set the seats and you don't know if they're going to fill necessarily.
Right. We didn't know what kind of to expect. And, you know, again, we couldn't really go based off of, well, what did the last show do? Because, well, the last show was a long, long time ago. And so obviously everything's different.
Everything since COVID, ticket sales just historically, it doesn't really matter what the event is. No. That month, 2 months beforehand, there's not much movement. It's that 1 to 2 week time before an event.
It really was. I mean, we had to rent chairs and we rented the chairs, and within the final 2 weeks, I think I had to call and up the chairs on 100 chair increments like 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's because, again, leading up to it, we were just like, okay, we're getting ticket sales, but it's not the amount we were kind of hoping for. And, well, okay, here are the chairs we're going to buy. And I was, oh, we're going to sell out. And we're going to still have a week left. And I don't want to sell out with a week left, when we're telling people, hey, we'll probably have tickets at the window because we didn't think we were going to sell. Yeah. And I mean, luckily we got to, I think, a very good medium where, I think for the most part, we ended up filling most of the seats that we had purchased. And I mean, again, especially with a newer project and things like that, to completely sell out and stuff like that was not necessarily ever going to be expected, but the turnout that we got was, to be honest with you, better than I could have hoped for.
Yeah, and it's just, I think everyone out there, who was hosting events, I've seen it across the board, take a deep breath until at least that 2 to 3 week marker. Then you can start really looking at those numbers because people I think everyone just sits and waits. Everyone sits and waits to see what the world is doing. Everyone sits and waits, am I healthy? Are my kids healthy? Especially with kids. I will tell you, as a mom with 2 littles, a lot of times you want to wait till that week ahead because then you're like, okay, I think we're going to stay healthy. I think we can buy these tickets and it'll work out.
Our exhibit is, we clean it as much as we possibly can and stuff like that, but just when you're working with kids, little flus and stuff like that are just commonplace amongst our workers. You got to stay home. But it's just one of those things because, it's dealing with kids. And again, that's kind of where me starting this and being a new thing, it's okay, I didn't have that experience of, okay, well, hey, here's a day that we're not getting any ticket sales. Well, why is that? Or, hey, these methods of trying to promote and advertise, are they actually working? Because we've never actually tried doing it like this. But I think a lot of what we did as far as was word of mouth. It was, okay, hey, we're going to grab one of the dinosaurs, we're going to bring them outside, and we're just going to say, come see him at Jurassic Fight Night. He's going to be doing this or whatever have you. And, it was very, most of our advertisement, I would say, was very organic.
Well, that's a good sign of what things could come with a little more planning.
And that's a great thing for the show as well, because being that, we don't know how this is going to work. We don't know what the sales could look like. We don't know what the reactions are going to be. It kind of limited a lot of the things that we wanted to do because, we were trying to worry about budgets. And again, to be honest, we wanted to do costumes for the dinosaurs and have a little bit more extravagant entrances and things like that just add a little bit more of that production value to the show that just didn't end up happening. And we kind of got to a point where we were just like, well, it's the first show. Let's see how this does. And then if there's the opportunity to move forward and continue, hey, as with pretty much every, movie sequels and what's the big rule of sequels? You always go bigger and better. So that is kind of, I think that is what this show really allowed us to do, was to realize there is a market for this. There is interest in this, and people do want to see this. And I mean, again, a lot of the people that we talked to about it were very much like, if you guys do another one, we'll be there. So again, building an established clientele now that we know if we do another one of these, we're at least going to get this many tickets because these people would want to come back.
Definitely. And we're going to make sure that we put in the show notes information on how to go to Pangaea so you can learn about all their awesome dinosaurs, possibly from Chase. Maybe he'll be your tour guide. And then we'll also make sure to put links to Jurassic Fight Night. I know this first show that we keep talking about is going to be available for digital purchase. And so you'll also be able to stay up to date on as that story and journey continues, because if you watch that first one, you'll see there's some twists in there and some things that weren't quite expected. And so as we're coming to a close here, Chase, what would be the one piece of advice or a bit of information you would want to leave the audience with?
I would say, one, suspend your, again, we've been kind of pulling a little bit of, again, the curtain back and talking about how, hey, wrestling's this, and, they're dinosaurs, they're people in the suits and stuff like that. But we had a lot of adults who came and had a great time, and that's because it was, hey, we are going to take this as these are real dinosaurs coming out, and they're these characters and stuff like that. And I think that if you just go into it with a, hey, I'm gonna suspend my, realism a little bit and invest in and buy into these characters, I think that you have a lot more fun with the product than going into it and trying to like overanalyze every little piece of it and things like that.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not just for kids. Of all the people there, I remember there was this daughter and dad couple. The daughter, I would say, was probably like mid-20s, maybe early 30s, and then the dad, 50s, 60s. They came like an hour plus early.
Yep.
They stayed through the whole time. They stayed late, and they were just giddy and smiling the entire
I was gonna say,
time.
I know exactly what you're talking about because we noticed that too. Because again, they really bought into the show, and again, that was really just the most perfect reaction we would want out of people. We want everyone to feel that. And I would say that with shows like this, I mean, it's one of those things where this isn't necessarily a huge multi-million-dollar production or by a studio or whatever. This is put on, I'm not gonna say kids because they're in their 20s and stuff, but a bunch of just. And again, I don't want to discredit them. They were all extremely hardworking and did a fantastic job. I appreciate every single one of them. But these are put on by just your average Joes and schmoes, I mean, I'm not special. I don't have a degree in directing or anything.
No one's
like
winning
that.
an Academy Award or an Oscar per se. But
So, it is kind of a very, amateur, I guess, if you will, show. But for it to be that and for it to be as kind of limited as it was on a lot of different things, to be able to produce the product that we did, I'm extremely proud of it.
And it looks awesome. So for all of you, anyone with any type of passion with dinosaurs, enjoyment of dinosaurs, definitely check out Pangaea, Land of the Dinosaurs in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then take a look at Jurassic Fight Night. So thank you so much, Chase, for coming on. I love learning about some of the dinosaurs. I know there's probably plenty more you'll be able to teach me.
Yeah. never a shortage of dinosaur knowledge.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you go out there, suspend your belief, have some fun, and go learn about some more dinosaurs. Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.